Officer Ryan Stone felt the bitter air bite at his exposed skin, a wind that carried the scent of pine and impending snow. It was a deep, silent cold, the kind that seemed to drain the color from the world and steal the sound from the night. Beside him, his canine partner Jacques, a magnificent Belgian Malinois, walked with a steady purpose, his breath a white puff in the gloom. The city lights were a distant memory now, a faint glow against the horizon swallowed by the vast, empty darkness of the forested outskirts. This was their last patrol of the night, a routine sweep of the abandoned industrial park before heading back to the warm comfort of the precinct. The old brick buildings were skeletal against the sky, their shattered windows like vacant eyes watching the two figures move. The silence was profound, broken only by the crunch of their boots on a thin layer of frost, and the jingle of Jacques' tags as he trotted on. The place was a monument to a forgotten economy, a graveyard of rusted metal and broken glass, a place where only whispers of the past remained. Ryan was a veteran of the force, a man who had seen too much and felt too little, but the desolate quiet of this place always got to him. It was a kind of loneliness that spoke to the bones. Suddenly Jacques stopped, a rigid statue of muscle and fur. His ears were pricked forward, his nose twitching with a focused intensity, a low rumble started deep in his chest. It was not a growl of aggression, but a sound of concern, a deep questioning noise. Ryan's hand immediately went to his sidearm. But his training told him this was not an explosive or a hostile threat. This was different, this was a distress signal, a call for help. Jacques' head swiveled towards a thicket of tangled brush and deadfall, a place where no one should have been. "What is it, boy?" Ryan whispered, his voice barely a sound against the wind. He knelt, putting a hand on Jacques' back. The dog's body was humming with a tense energy, a signal that something was profoundly wrong. Jacques took a few hesitant steps forward, then stopped again, his gaze fixed on a small movement within the thorny vines. Ryan followed his line of sight, squinting into the darkness. He could see nothing at first, only the dense shadows and the skeletal branches of the trees. But then he saw it, a flicker of pale fabric, a small movement that could have been a trick of the light or a rabbit in the undergrowth, but Jacques did not react to rabbits. He was trained to find people, not game. Ryan motioned with his hand, a silent command for Jacques to go forward. The dog moved with an eerie silence, his paws making no sound. On the frozen ground he vanished into the brush for a moment, and then his head reappeared, his nose pointed down, a single soft whine escaping his lips. He began to paw at the base of a gnarled oak tree, a gentle, frantic motion, a clear indication that he had found something, a living thing. Ryan moved quickly but carefully, his heart now a frantic drum against his ribs. He pushed through the thorny brush, tearing his jacket on the sharp ends. His flashlight beam cut a swath through the darkness, revealing a small clearing behind the tree, and then the impossible sight that would forever haunt his dreams. Two little girls, no older than 5, were huddled together, their small bodies bound at the wrists with thick rope. Their clothes were thin and ragged, offering no protection against the biting cold. Their skin was pale, almost translucent, their lips blue with cold. Their eyes wide and filled with a terror so pure it was a physical blow to Ryan. He could see the fear in their faces, the desperate clinging to each other for warmth and comfort, to identical faces, 2 pairs of large brown eyes. Twin reflections of despair. Ryan felt the world drop out from under him. He had seen things that no one should ever see. But this was different. This was a violation so profound, so cruel, that it seemed to defy understanding. Who could do this? who could abandon two children, two tiny little girls, in the freezing cold, like this? The question was a burning ache in his mind, a fire of righteous anger and deep sorrow. "Joxy," said, his voice a low growl, "stay here." He approached the girls slowly, cautiously. He did not want to startle them to add to their fear. He kept his hands visible, showing them he was not a threat. He knelt down a few feet away, trying to project calm and safety. "Hello," he said softly. "My name is Ryan, I am a police officer, and this is my partner Jox. We are here to help you. Are you okay?" The girls just stared at him, silent and shaking. One of them gave a small whimper and buried her face in her sister's shoulder. Ryan's heart shattered into a million pieces. He had to get them untied, he had to get them to warmth. He had to get them to safety. He moved closer now, his movements slow and deliberate. He reached for the rope, a thick, scratchy length of cord that chafed their delicate skin. The knot was tight, a complex web of malice. He took out his police knife, a tool of his trade. But this was a different kind of job. This was a rescue, not an arrest. He carefully cut the rope, a small snip of the blade that seemed to echo in the silent night. The first girl was free, her hands immediately going to her face, her small fingers raw and red from the cold. He then turned to the other twin, her face a mask of fear. He cut her bonds as well, her hands now free. A new kind of terror seemed to wash over her. She did not move, she just stared at him. Ryan knew what she was thinking. She was free, but she was still in danger. She was still in the cold. She was still alone. "It is okay," he said, his voice a soothing melody. "You are safe now." He gently took off his jacket and wrapped it around the two of them, a single cocoon of warmth. They were so small, so light, a fragile burden. He held them close, their small bodies shivering against his chest. He could feel the cold radiating from them, a deep chill that was a testament to how long they had been their Jox. Had been watching the entire time, a silent guardian. He came closer now, nudging his nose against the girl's legs, a quiet offering of comfort. "Come." The girls flinched at first. But then one of them, a little braver than the other, reached out a tiny hand and tentatively patted his head. Jox gave a small soft bark, a sound of gentle reassurance, a promise that he would protect them. Ryan called for backup on his radio, his voice a mix of relief and urgency. He reported the location and the situation, his words coming out in a rush. He needed an ambulance, he needed warmth, he needed answers. But for now, the most important thing was to get the girls to safety. He scooped them up, one in each arm, a weight that felt heavier than any training exercise could prepare him for. He walked back the way they came, Jox leading the way, a silent guide through the thorny darkness. The ambulance arrived, a beacon of hope in the night. The medics wrapped the girls in warm blankets, their small faces, now a little less pale. Ryan watched as they were put into the ambulance, the back doors closing on their small, fragile forms. He felt a profound sense of relief, a wave of exhaustion washing over him, a feeling so deep it was almost physical. He had done his job, he had saved them, he had done what he was supposed to do. But the sight of the two little girls tied up in the cold would never leave him. It was a scar on his memory, a reminder of the darkness that existed in the world, a darkness that was made all the more terrifying by the innocence it had tried to consume that night as he drove back to the precinct. With Jox in the passenger seat, the silence was no longer empty. Pew. It was filled with the memory of two little girls shivering in the cold, their wide eyes asking a question. He could not answer a question about the cruelty of the world. The investigation began, a whirlwind of activity and interviews. The girls were taken to a hospital, where they were treated for exposure and malnourishment. Their names were Lily and Leah, identical twins, who had been missing for 2 days. Their father, a troubled man with a history of domestic violence, had taken them after a custody dispute and abandoned them in the woods, a final act of spite and cruelty. He was found a few days later hiding in a motel room, his conscience a thing long lost. Ryan visited the girls in the hospital. He brought Jocks with him, a special visit, approved by the police chief. Girls were still fragile. But they were a little better, a little stronger. They were eating again, and their small faces had a little color. Now, when they saw Ryan and Jocks, their faces lit up with a small hesitant joy. They remembered the officer who had saved them, and the big dog who had protected them. Jocks went to them, his tail wagging gently. He let them pet him, their small hands, a fragile comfort against his thick fur. Ryan watched them, their laughter a new sound in the room, a sound that was a balm to his shattered heart. He knew that they would be okay. He knew that they had a long road ahead of them, a journey to heal from the trauma of that night. But they were survivors, they were fighters. They had each other, and they had the memory of a police officer and his canine partner, who had come for them in the freezing dark of night. He left the hospital with a renewed sense of purpose, a new understanding of his duty. It was not just about catching the bad guys. It was about protecting the innocent. It was about being a beacon of hope in the darkness. It was about being the voice for those who could not speak, and the warmth for those who were left in the cold. He knew that he and Jocks were a team, a force for good, a pair of guardians in a world that so often forgot its most vulnerable. The story of the twins became a legend in the precinct, a story of heroism and hope. Ryan became a local hero, a man who had faced the worst and brought back the best. But he did not see himself that way. He saw himself as a man who had done his job, a man who had been in the right place at the right time. He saw himself as a man who had been a witness to a miracle, a small act of kindness in a world of cruelty. A reminder that even in the darkest of moments there was always hope. He knew that the memory of that night would always stay with him, a ghost that would haunt his dreams. But he also knew that the memory of Lily and Leah's small smiles would always be there too. A light that would guide him through the darkness, a reminder that his work was never done. A reminder that his duty was a sacred trust, a promise he would always keep.